You're listening to Across the Pondcast. Cybersecurity rants and war stories from both sides of the Atlantic.
Hello and welcome to Across the Pondcast, a show where we talk and occasionally rant about cybersecurity topics with perspectives from both sides of the Atlantic. I am Tiberius. I'm joined as always by my amazing co-host, Mr. Andy Swift. Andy, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you. A little squidge monster.
Excellent.
Contain yourself. And center.
Every time we record these, I prepare myself for whatever adjective you're going to describe me with.
I'll run out one day.
I'm not just... I have to... No, you won't, because you used ChatGPT to generate some of them. Okay. Well, the title of today's episode is Testing Disasters Part 2. Yes, we finally reached the point of the podcast where we think we can probably revisit some earlier episodes and add some more stuff to them. So, yeah, we're going to talk about a few more mistakes that we have both made in our pen testing careers because, of course, humans are fallible and make plenty of mistakes.
Yes, we do.
Before we start, this show is made possible thanks to our sponsors, so let's take a moment to tell you who is sponsoring today's episode. If you're into Burp Suite, web hacking, or just like hanging out with smart people doing cool security stuff, you need to check out the Portswigger Discord. I'm in there all the time, and honestly, I learn something new every single week. You'll get regular announcements about Burp updates, new research from both Portswigger and the community, and the latest extensions hitting the BAP store. But what really makes it stand out are the live server events. Feature demos, Q&As, talks from folks in the community, myself included, and even the occasional game night when we want to keep things light. There are channels for just about everything a web security nerd could ask for. Research, community resources, BAMDAs, B-checks, even a place to post memes. And the best part? A bunch of Portswigger devs, researchers and staff are active there. You want behind-the-scenes insights on how something actually works in Burp? Get answers straight from the people who built it. So, what are you waiting for? Come join us at discord.gg/Portswigger today. Do you want to start us off, Swift?
Yeah, I'll start us off. Oh, actually start us off. It's for me. It's still light outside, which is really strange at the moment. Summer is here, and I'm enjoying it still, and it's affecting my head. Anyway, first one to talk about. So, AWS testing disasters. So, I not really an AWS problem, more a sort of configuration problem, I suppose, if you like, between the client's application and supporting infrastructure, which was a really interesting setup. And it's all to do with shared environments. That horrible word that makes every pen tester sort of shudder and go, ugh, because they're not great for us, really, because we, unlike hackers who have a fair amount of time to work out what's in a network, what a target is, do lots of enumeration works, we're kind of confined by the amount of time that we have given to us or scoped for a test. So we end up having to do lots of quite heavy scanning activity a lot of the time anyway, just to try and fit things in within a given time frame. But, with that comes the possibility that if a client has misconfigured something or we haven't checked certain parameters, like we haven't checked something as a shared environment or the client has failed to mention it or something like that, I'm putting this one down as like a 50-50 rather than like a solely my fault type of thing. I accept at least.
I'll be the final judge of that. How about that?
Yeah. You can judge me. That's fine. It's like being in court. So we started doing a test and we started doing some really basic enumeration. And we're talking about Nmap scans here. We're not even talking about vulnerability scans. We're talking about literally port scans. So nothing particularly chunky in terms of bandwidth, but a lot of firewall configurations, if not configured correctly, and your logging in particular is quite verbose and not configured correctly, it really struggles with lots of small packets of information, small packets of data. So not even like anything in them, just like standard port scans will literally kill it off because it's trying to inspect absolutely everything. So if you've got too many rules, too many duplicate rules, and you're logging an awful lot of stuff, it's going to send the environment haywire. So there was that. And beyond that as well, this firewall sat in front of a shared environment in AWS, shared amongst about, I think it's something like 15 other clients that they had on it. So not just our client that we were testing, 15 others behind this one device seemingly. And yeah, we started the test. We started off as normal, started running our Nmap scans, and lo and behold, loads of people went offline. Not just one client, not just our client, who were very annoyed about it, by the way, but like 14 others also started having like trouble with traffic and things like that. And it is a major problem in terms of like how you report it as a vulnerability without looking like a complete dick. Because on one hand, there's a number of failings here on like the client side and our side-ish. I mean, like we should, as I suppose, like a lesson learned thing for testers, like up and down the world, around the world. There we go. It's not up and down. It's not flat Earth, is it? We should be asking those questions really about, is it a shared environment? Are we operating in a shared environment to the best of your knowledge? Have you ever had this tested before? And if you're not using things like testing questionnaires, those testing questions should always be in those sorts of questionnaires about, has it been tested before? Has it been put for its paces under XYZ conditions? What's the expected throughput look like on a normal day? That sort of stuff. So we can kind of match that and make sure we don't exceed anything or do anything insane that's going to tip the balance the wrong way. But at the same time, you shouldn't really be configuring firewalls with 1,000,001 duplicate rules that all do the same thing. And we looked at their firewall rules afterwards, and they were literally duplicate rule after duplicate rule. So every packet you send through has got to go through each one of those rules. Okay, nope. And you think we're doing that for every single TCP port, 65,000 of them. So it's a lot of heavy lifting when you multiply it up. So yeah, it's ground those systems to a halt. But the awkward thing about it was the reporting afterwards, because if you can take an entire environment and 14 other people's environments offline with an Nmap scan, that's a pretty bad situation. That reporting goes in for us as like a high or a critical, because it is. Yeah. Like it's a denial of service, really, isn't it? through the fault of your own configuration of your own security devices, which is insane. But yeah, it's one of those ones. We came back the next year and they still hadn't fixed it. And the problem with fixing it was that the shared environment and the device in front of the shared environment was owned by the company that was managing their network and the 14 others. And seemingly the 14 other people didn't really apply much pressure to get this fixed. So they just didn't. So we came back the next year to do the same test. And we scaled the scans right back that time because we were aware of it and we knew what would happen. And the client was like, well, and they started. It's another one of those things. I think we mentioned it in the first part of this episode. There's a way to handle these conversations, and there's a way to like bring them round to make it not a disaster. All is not lost in these situations, right? And by that time we came around to the second year, we're having these productive conversations with the client about the security of other environments and the other sort of models for other applications they had, which had really similar sort of shared setups and things, and not making the same mistakes. So although this one didn't change and we could scale it back, it got to the end of the test and they were like, well, maybe we should try and see if it's still a problem. Like, okay, I appreciate that from clients. I like that sort of, I wonder if we can screw this up again type of thing. And because they just wanted like evidence to put pressure on to get this thing changed.
Yeah.
And it turned out the reason they couldn't change it was because the people managing the environment wanted more money to change it, to enable more throughput. Like, wrap your head around that. No, we're not going to sort the rules out. No, we're not going to sort the logging problems out. We want more money to enable more throughput so this problem goes away. It's like, okay,
oh boy.
That's not really a solution. So yeah, I quite enjoyed that. They're still good clients to this day. We still test the same environment to this day. It's better now. We can actually run an Nmap scan without destroying it, which is good.
Did they pay more money?
No, they moved it to another provider.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
They just, they wouldn't change. They wanted more money and weren't really getting the message of fixing a problem. At which point you've got to ask sort of questions about things like competencies and stuff like that. Yeah, about your providers. And if they're not going to change, you presented them with the evidence of literally environments going offline through absolute stupidity. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do at that point apart from move your business elsewhere, fortunately, if you don't want to do it in-house, which no one does really anymore.
Yeah, so I think there's honestly, whenever these testing disasters happen from a pen tester side, there's kind of like two types of customer, right? Two types of client. There's the one who gets like immediately very, very angry.
Yeah.
Because, okay, yeah, you did a bad thing. You toppled over their network, you crashed their system, their WordPress blog is gone. Echoing back to the first episode. If you aren't aware of that reference, go watch it. Episode 4, I believe. And then there's the customer who's like, okay, stuff happens sometimes. Yes, we're annoyed, but how do we adapt? How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And how can everybody learn from this? And I think that's obviously the better customer, right? Is the one who's able to sort of put it into context, because we're all humans. Humans make mistakes. Sometimes the people that you pay a lot of money to do pen testing and just any kind of security testing are going to make mistakes. That should always be in your risk model, really. I mean, I feel like every pen testing contract ever has a clause that, pen testing is inherently dangerous. Yeah. We're sending malicious payloads. Stuff could happen. So you need to have that and be aware of that risk. And if something does happen, it might be tempting to just be like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to hire these people again. Yeah. But, if you've got a 3-year contract with them, obviously that's not an option. And it could happen to anyone. There's no such thing as like a perfect pen tester. No. So, yeah.
No. The art of it is taking those people that are very sort of standoffish and come down on you like a ton of bricks on that first day where the first screw up happens, and turning them into that second type of person who wants to explore and wants to, because there's a lot to do with having conversations about calming them down and filling them in with information and explaining sort of inherent risks to them and stuff like that. Because I think a lot of the time they get clouded immediately, that sort of person, with, oh my God, the environment's offline. I'm going to get so much pressure from the rest of the business about this being offline and this being offline. And that stuff about, we've actually uncovered something that's pretty serious in terms of a problem that someone could take this environment offline with a calculator, but it's or just blowing in the wrong direction. It's about, okay, now we can understand and quantify that risk, and now we need to make changes to our suppliers, and that information that would never have happened. So a couple of years down the line, it took a long time for them to get out of a contract, but a couple of years down the line, they finally moved and they're in a much better position now. And if you didn't go through that process and they just shut the doors right away and weren't willing to cooperate, or we couldn't turn the conversation into that productive, meaningful conversation, they'll still be burning through other testing companies now, I would have thought, smacking their heads on the wall. Yeah. So it's about that journey of improvement with them. Cybersecurity journey, as the salespeople like to call it, which sometimes involves mistakes and like learning from them as well on our part and the client's part. So it was interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed that one, just purely because the client also sells a lot of like fun things like alcohol. So anytime we go there, we get nice big discounts. so they're nice people. We like them.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's good. So it is a problem with shared environments. There's a lot of them, and we see them a lot in like cloud tests and cloud applications nowadays. And they're just increasing. So that kind of exploratory work is actually becoming quite important, I think. Yes. That's all I have to say about AWS and like the thing sitting in front of it. I won't mention names of devices and things, but
yeah.
Here endeth that tale, the terrible firewall that ended up in lots of alcohol. What's the next one?
DOS to SCADA network.
Oh God, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, we're slowly realizing as we go over the show notes that basically most of these are Andy's. So I'm very happy this episode.
Yeah. It comes with the territory, I think, of infrastructure testing. Like, we end up in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. And this one is a fine example of weird and wonderful, because it was literally in the middle of a field. And they're my favorite types of infrastructure tests, where I'm playing with SCADA stuff and I'm sort of in the middle of nowhere. Because, not just from the point of view that no one can contact me, and it gives me some nice peace and quiet. But also, I just...
There have been a few episodes where you've been just in a field randomly.
Yeah, it happens more than you think. I've got like a...
Why do they send you to so many fields?
It's partly because I usually see stuff like that and nominate myself. So we used to do a really cool pen test in a data center in the UK. So it's in Kent. For those of you that know it, it's somewhere near the coast. It's like an old RAF base, this place is. And it's the best data center I've ever been to. It's my favourite one in the world because it's an old decommissioned RAF base. And they have a bunker that goes, and the place is called the bunker. Look it up. It's not like a huge secret. I mean, try and get in there and a dog will probably rip your face off. But it's like an old bunker. It goes right the way under this airfield, and it uses all of the old sort of halls and tunnels that they dug out for all of this infrastructure underneath. So you got like all these big blast doors that are like this wide that you have to go through to get to, and then down all these sorts of like steel stairs and stuff to get to this, like the data halls. Really cool. Meandering again, but I mean the point is you go in there and there's no signal or anything. There's no sort of contact to the outside world. You're doing an infrastructure test that doesn't have access to like internet outbound, closed environments and things. It's just lovely. No one can contact you there, and you're just down there until lunchtime. Come up for a bit of air afterwards. But yeah, really, really strange place. They hire like military people to do the security there as well. So there's just like a couple of blokes like on the security on the door as you go in who like have these massive dogs, which is I haven't seen too many data centers like that. Anyway, I'm digressing, but that's a cool place to go if you ever get to go there. So yes, this one, Lossing a SCADA network. Yeah, it's in a field. It's a conceptual network, this one was. So it was to do with controlling power to power lines on a railway or a segment of railway. But trains go along. So it had these two PLCs on it, so logic controllers. And they were kind of quite integral, really, to put it mildly, quite integral to the sort of running of the trains along this segment. And it was... You had two of them and two legs of a network or whatever. It's in there for redundancy. So if one fails, it falls over to the other one. And they should just kind of pick up really nicely and flop over if one comes back online and one goes offline. It's a very sort of nicely set up network. The problem with these particular models of PLC that they had before this got patched, not long after the pen test, funnily enough. And if you've ever done any SCADA testing, you'll find lots of these sorts of things on weird and wonderful PLCs, like really basic, like denial of service type conditions. It's just the type of industry it is. You start throwing weird traffic against something that's not going to expect it, and it will start to have hissy fits. But yeah, what it wasn't expecting is so the two legs of a network had two different IP addresses. So let's just call it PLC A and PLC B. And if you sent all of PLC B's, if you tried to send traffic to PLC B to the other one, to A, and send traffic to A at the same time as well, it just didn't know what to do with all the traffic, and the whole thing just rebooted, and just the PLC just basically bricked itself and didn't know what to do. Like it didn't just knock communications out for a little bit. It literally bricked the device for a bit. And it just stood there like an infinite boot loop at the beginning. So yeah, all you had to do was just send it traffic it wasn't expecting from the secondary leg, and it would just shut down. So yeah, the outcome of that is that no one could really control power anymore, which was quite funny. And the bloke that was sitting next to me, because they have to on these types of sites where you've got electricity involved, so you have to go in like a hard hat, and you have to have like certain colours of high vis on. I think it's orange for power, can't remember. I think it's orange, and
it's probably something you should remember. Yeah, Swift.
I've got various different high vis things in my cupboard. I never know which one I'm meant to wear. I just turn up in a wardrobe of them. If in doubt, just wear a different colour on bottom, on top. At least you're 50-50. But you turn up at these places in like your hard hat, and like there's certain people in life that are just not, like, you look at them and you just I look so out of place just wearing a hard hat. You can tell I'm in IT. I look like I'm not meant to be there. I look like an idiot. And there's always like someone that has to escort you who actually knows what they're doing and has worked these sorts of places and belongs there, basically. And you look at them and you're like, they're just watching you, just going, fucking nerds. Yeah, okay, but I've just killed the power to your network. And his defense was the best bit. He's like, oh yeah, that's cool. How'd you do that? He's not a technical person. It's like, well, I did this, and he's like, oh yeah, like sending ping. Yeah, if you like. Okay, yes, like sending ping. Yes. There must be like the only bit of networking he understood, which was great. It's like, it's okay though. It's okay. You can't get into this building. I was like, why not? So there was a lock on the door. It's like, yes, there is. It's foolproof.
Yeah, I was going to say. Physical pen testing now.
Yeah, lock picking, exactly. And these are sort of prime locations for it because they're in the middle of a field. Like there's substations in the middle of the field. Like there's nothing really nearby. There's the odd camera that was not pointing at the door. It was pointing at the other side of the building. Weirdly, you think you'd want your camera trained on the door?
Nah,
silly. That being the only entrance, obviously. Well, it's locked. Okay, yeah, great.
I picked a lock recently to save the day.
To save the day?
That's a good. Yeah, I was in New York City doing the Net Gala. I'm one of the organizers setting up. This is not a testing disaster, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. Yeah, so the Net Gala is run by Ali Diamond. I help run it, and she has a storage unit where all the Net Gala stuff is stored. And it's the Friday, like the day before the Net Gala, and the whole organizing team shows up at the storage unit, and Ali drives in a U-Haul, so we're going to load the U-Haul. So she winds down the window. It's like, Tibbs, tell me you've got your lockpicks on you. And I'm like, yeah, why? I forgot the key to the storage unit. So we go up there, and thankfully it was a Brinks padlock. I think it had one security pin in it. But I had my covert companion on me. I got the riv pick out of that, and I tried raking it at first. It didn't work because of the security pin. And then I just single pin picked it, and lo and behold, like about a minute and a half later, like few false sets popped open. I was like, yay, save the day. That was good.
That's really cool. I love lock picking. We don't get to do enough of it as an industry. I really like it. So my little story to queue up about that was my wife had to go and look after like the dogs at my at the in-laws' house, and she put the key in, and the key just sort of turned and snapped. And it's like, well, we got no other keys, and so she phoned me. She's like, I might need you to come and do like some lock wizardry to like get this out and then maybe pick the lock. And I was like, yes. This is my time. I got really excited. I was like, I told my boss at work, I was like, I got to go. This is too good. This is too fun. I'll see you later. I'm going to gather my bag. I got my picking kit. I stuck it in my bag. I was like, I'm ready to go. And then I get a phone call like not long after. And she goes, don't worry, I got into the building. I was like, what? What do you mean you got in? You got into how did you get through the door? How did you learn to pick locks? Watching YouTube or some stuff? Like, No, what had happened, she found a window that was slightly ajar at the front of her house, and she posted my son through it into a house with dogs in it. Literally lifted him up, posted him through the window. Trust it, he's 4 years old, by the way. Like, just trusting that he would have been able to get through and unlock the door on the other side.
Oh, he'll be fine.
What could go wrong here? So no, not a testing disaster, but that tickled me. And I never got to pick the lock, so it's rubbish.
I do have a key extractor on my covert companion, so I could have done that bit. But yeah.
What's a key extractor? We are off topic here, but
it's for when a key breaks in the lock, you can push the key extractor in, and it'll hook onto the front of the key, and you can pull it out.
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, it like pushes all the pins up. Because the reason you can't get the key out generally if it's snapped off is you haven't got enough purchase, and all the pins are stuck in position. So you push the pins out the way and then hook it around the front of the key and just pull.
Yeah, I half expected you to say it's just a pair of pliers, but yeah,
no, it's for when pliers don't work.
It never snaps cleanly to be able to get a pair of pliers on the end, and even if you do, you end up with like a little bit of metal that just doesn't have enough like substance to it anymore because it's twisted. So you get your pliers and you're like, no. Yeah. Anyway, right. Testing disasters.
Back to testing disasters. We should do an episode of log picking.
Ooh, I like that. That'd be a good one for you. You've probably done more than that than I have, actually, I reckon.
I might have. Back to the testing disasters.
Back to testing disasters, yes. Back to the cameras after we've discussed lock picking for about 10 minutes. This happens a lot. This is how the episodes end up so long. But yeah, that was it. There was just a lock on the front door, and that was all that's protecting like this network. And there's no kind of like access control. There's no they didn't even have racks inside like the substation for all like the IT stuff. It was all just like barefaced racks with no sort of locks or on the doors or anything like that. So yeah, these things are pretty substations. If you ever, I guess not many people have been in a substation in a field. It's not a common thing, is it? But they are just like little tin boxes. There's nothing much to them. They're quite basic places. Some of them have lights. That's a treat. It's a treat for the soul.
You'd think powering lights would be a basic thing for a substation, you know?
You would. You really would. It's whether they work or not is another matter. But yeah, there's also a problem of lunchtime. Like, where do you go at lunch?
Swifties packed lunches.
Yeah, packed lunch on the hill with the bloke that knows ping and really wants to break into pen testing. I love it when people do that. They see what we do. It's cool. I think that's my testing disaster over. I also had there's a salesperson that phoned me during that, and these controllers control like 10,000 volts to certain places, and they phoned me for like, oh, can you just do this quick sales call? And I was like, I've just buggered up a railway track, so
maybe not.
So probably not the best timing. But yeah. Anyway, right, that's the end of my. I don't really have a moral for that story, to be honest, apart from like. I like to end all of these little stories with like a little tidbit of information, but sometimes you just can't control stuff like that. You're testing things in a weird way. You're trying to uncover vulnerabilities. That's the point. But when there's an actual fault with like vendor provided hardware, and the vendors are really good because the people installing all this equipment work really closely with the vendors. And again, I won't name them, but they are a very big company that provide PLCs a lot, which will probably narrow it down enough for people to go, yeah. And they'd published a fix for firmware for them within like a day. It was super quick after us reporting it. And it was really nice just working with them on something like that, just to get it out the door, turned around and fixed, because you felt like you were doing sort of real world remediation of something that was actually worthwhile. Like, instead of that, just you give like a client a pen test report and you know it's just sat on the shelf till next year type of thing, and they haven't done anything about it. It's nice when they turn stuff around like that so fast that you're back in there the next day testing and going, yeah, that's fixed, because this could be a real problem. So yeah, and that was a really nice one, a really rewarding one to be part of. But it's always worth checking out things like relationships with vendors. If it's such a tight-knit kind of environment you're working in, it's always worth like working out those sorts of links and contacts and stuff whilst you're there. The worst thing is having that information, giving it to the client, and the client's like, I don't really know what to do with it. But if you know that you've got contacts with like the vendors and stuff as well, as you go in there and you know the client is hooked up well with them, and you know you can get all those people on a call within like 10 minutes, that's a really great scenario. So dig into those scenarios, those situations. Really helpful. That's about the only thing I can give that. Sorry.
My only story in this episode, it isn't really a story, it's just sort of a little factoid about me.
I'm just seeing the show notes.
I have an uncanny ability of just getting lost in data centers, to the point where it's just one of the things that at least at the company we both worked at in the UK, I was just known as the person who just got a bit lost in data centers. Like it was an attribute. And yeah, like, I mean, there really isn't that much of a story. It's not really a testing disaster, other than the fact that I have maybe caused a few delays in pen testing because I've gone to the bathroom. You know, I've left Swift in the data center, like testing something. I've gone to the bathroom, and then like he's received a text. How do I get back?
Please come and find me.
Look, data centers are really confusing, all right? They all look the same. That's not helpful. All the data center halls look the same. The corridors are often winding and complicated. And you have to use your badge on so many doors. It just overloads my tiny little brain. It can't handle.
To be fair, if you were going to design like a series of hallways and corridors, like a maze, if you're going to design a maze and you wanted to make it the hardest maze for anyone to get out of, you would literally make all the corridors the same, all the floor tiles the same, and pretty much have not much direction of where to go. A lot of that. Basically, a data center is like your optimal place to get lost in. But yeah, it always used to make me laugh. You used to. I remember one time we let you take point as we were going through, and you were very confident until you went the wrong way. You literally went like one way, and we went the other way. We're like, well, how long it's going to take him to notice? Like, give it a minute. Give it a minute.
You've got to walk with confidence, even if you're wrong. Confidently incorrect.
That's going on your.
I'm not wrong. The world's wrong.
That's going on your gravestone. That is, mate.
He likes Tiberius. He got lost in data centers a lot.
The body won't even be there. Some colo rack that was checked for like 20 years. Find you many years later.
Oh,
It's a good job you do web apps now, isn't it? Is that why you do web apps? just kept getting lost.
I just don't like going on site anyway. Like, I don't know.
It gets tiring.
There may be another episode about, hey, remote testing versus on-site testing. Maybe we should note that down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see the point in doing on-site testing anymore.
The thrill of it, though. The thrill.
If I was doing lockpicking, that would be different. Social engineering, I would love to do more of.
Yeah.
But
social engineering.
I'd probably get lost. I'd pick the lock not because I had to get into somewhere, because I'm trapped somewhere inside, and like, oh no.
I think we did. Oh, I think I spoke about this in another episode, but I'll say it anyway because it's more of like a recap than a full story. But there's a guy we did social engineering with. He's very much like you. You wouldn't have known because he came after you left. But he's very much like you. The same.
Yeah, he went to the wrong building.
Went to the wrong building. Yeah. So social.
And his wife was like, "Why did you send?"
Yeah. And it was the best thing about it was it's like the building was one of those shared buildings, multiple companies in it, and the company he was in was on the opposite side of the one that he was meant to be in, and there was like loads of glass screens between them and like where he was meant to be.
Oh god, that's
so
good.
Yeah, super awkward. But yeah, I don't social engineering. I'm sure you'd love. Just couldn't guarantee you'd get on my target. It'd be exciting.
I'm sure I'm all right now.
I had a great trip to data center the other day.
Let's get off the data centers. We've actually taken up quite a lot of time in this episode.
We have, yeah, just too much meandering talk.
It's good though. This always happens. It's nice.
It's a surprise. Makes it adventurous. You never know what's coming next. All right, print jobs. So this is on site again. So yeah, this is definitely not your world. But this is on site. You were here for this one, weren't you?
I don't remember it. I think you definitely remember this one more than I do. I was probably around.
We won't name the individual. It wasn't our screw up, actually. This is a colleague's screw up. So again, we won't name the individual. We'll just call him Mr. Monopoly. He was a good guy. He didn't need to work, let's put it that way. He's a lovely chap, heart in the right place. But yeah, he was a junior tester, wasn't he, at the time? And we took him on site. And I think the thing is with a lot of scanning tools used in the wrong way can be very dangerous in terms of we've spoken about shared environments and things already, and especially on internal LANs as well. The temptation is for people that have not done internal tests before, done lots of them, is I find when I'm watching new people do internal tests for the first time, they tend to go too quickly and fire too many things at, like, just scattergun. And they end up very quickly overwhelmed with the amount of data that comes back. And it's like, well, what are you looking at? What are you working on at the moment? And they got a list of about 30 things that they found around the network, and like none of them are particularly helpful. Missing all the major misconfigurations, but they found some printers. And here is where the story begins. But yeah, in a dark client's office, some printers lived. Printers are wonderful things on internals. I really like a good printer. You can often find a lot of misconfigurations and a lot of interesting stuff on printers, and we've seen some really weird stuff between us, even in environments, haven't we? There's a big solicitors we went to years ago to do an internal test, and we found a printer at theirs where you could literally keylog people's authentication credentials, because they had to come and log on to the printer and type their username into the printer. So it was running like Windows XP or something. So we're like, yeah, all right, we'll just MSO 867 our way onto that, and then we'll just drop a few keyloggers on there. And it's like, okay, well, that works. Now we've got all their credentials for whoever logs in. But the printers are great. People scan stuff into them. They leave things there. A lot of printers have like internal storage as well. So that's especially good at places like banks, because they scan passports and stuff in like that willy-nilly. And if you get onto those, which often like never have anything other than default credentials on them, let's be honest, most printers do. Yeah, internal storage on them is a fantastic thing to mess around with as well. But there's also some printers running things like cup services. You can send nice, really helpful messages to them, and they'll just kind of print out test pages. And the junior had worked this out, and he thought it would be a good idea to scan the entire network for like all these different printers, but could print these test pages out just by sending it like a certain cups message. The trouble is he scanned the entire network and he sent a message to the entire network to print test pages. But the other problem was the script he had written to do it. And this almost is like a classic Andy thing with my while loop problem on my historic nested while loop thing, which you constantly mock me for. A bit like I mock you for
Too many while loops.
And it would just print the test page over and over again, sending the same message over and over again. So all the printers in the client's office started printing test pages. The printer ink test pages over and over and over again, and to the point where the job queues were just like maxed out on every single printer, just printing test pages. Like, what the hell is going on? Oh, we got a paper bill, so we should really charge you for the amount of paper you wasted on that pen test. Like, sorry.
Probably.
So don't do stuff like that.
How did you cancel that?
How did I cancel it?
Yeah, did people have to go manually and cancel all the print shops?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, thankfully he caught it fairly quickly. So there's probably no more than about 50 test page prints on each printer. And the office was one they
print so fast. That's the issue as well.
Laser printers do, yeah.
Laser printers are insanely fast.
Yeah, they are pretty rapid. Yeah, we had to because a lot of them did have default logins or no login at all to some of these printers. It was actually quite easy to cancel some of them as we went and quickly undo our mistakes before it got too bad. Yeah, there was a lot of wasted paper that day. The client was quite angry because they were like, "We should really charge you for that paper."
I mean, arguably, yeah,
probably should.
Like,
yeah,
it's not too expensive, but yeah,
it's a big problem. But yeah, that was him. But yeah, that's one of those things you live and you learn, don't you?
Moral of the story: read your scripts to make sure it's actually going to do what you think it's going to do. And maybe don't spam all the printers. Maybe just do it on like a couple.
Limit your scope, man. Limit your scope. But yeah.
Like, it's okay to print a test page, I think, because you have to show that you can do it.
Certain
But don't do it to all of them.
No. It's a nice distraction technique, though.
Yeah, quickly you can get in the server room, like just cause all the printers that start printing. Every IT guy is suddenly running around, like trying to turn these printers off.
Yeah, I quite like that. We should do that, like a social engineering engagement. Next red team engagement, we're doing that. Going to call it Print Nightmare. Oh no, that's already a thing. I have to think of another better name. Well, I think the last one is My Shame again.
Yeah, it's a good one though.
I've got a lot of these, but this one's very much down your alley because it's web applications.
Yes.
So I imagine you've got not as glorious as mine because I did use a picture of a cow to do it. And you've
talked about this one on my YouTube channel before when I did the interview series with you.
I have.
So people who have watched that have already heard the story, but there are definitely some listeners of this podcast that probably haven't watched that episode. So take it away, man. How did a cow get you in so much trouble?
To the point where it still haunts me today. Yeah.
This is the one screw up I whenever I think of you and screwing up, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah. I do some good tests occasionally. They're not all disasters. I mean, just sometimes. But yeah, there's some good lessons to learn from this. So I've grown to like this story myself because there is a good lesson to learn out of it, I think. And it's not just don't use pictures of cows for cross-site scripting. There's a reason people use like test strings and things. But I found a cross-site scripting vulnerability on an application, and I was really excited about it, and I thought it was great. And I did try the usual like script alert stuff, as when you're sort of just probing about and you go, oh yeah, there we go, found another one. You were there, and I was like, do you know what'd be funny? I'll show Tibsy my screen. I'll show him what I've done to his site. Haha. I was like, I'll put a cow in there. I'll put a picture of a cow because he's seen script alert. He knows script alert. I'm going to give him a picture of a cow. So I spent probably about 20 minutes looking for a picture of a cow on Google. I had to get the right one, the right kind of udders, right sort of girth to make an impression on you, I suppose. So I found the right one. and I dropped it in there. It was reflective. So I was like, it's not stored anywhere. It's not like I'm committing something to a database somewhere that someone's going to stumble upon. So this is quite harmless. It's reflective, and no one will know, and no one will care. So we had a little laugh about it in the office. We had a little giggle, went to lunch, came back towards the end of the day. It might have even been the next day. I can't even remember. It was a long time.
I think it was the next day. It was next morning.
Next morning. Let's just say it's next morning. Yeah. Next morning. And our boss comes over to us, Ed, and he's like, guys, did you put a picture of a cow onto the client's website? And I was like,
I was probably giggling.
Yeah, it was him.
I was like, oh, thank goodness it's not me.
I was like, yeah, kind of, I did that. But it was reflective, and I was like, quite, because we were quite junior at the time. So I was like, how on earth has that happened? Because I just couldn't, it's obvious now, but like as a junior, I
should clarify for our listeners. So reflected or reflective XSS is the XSS where you basically submit it in the URL kind of, and it doesn't permanently stay on the page. If you browse away and go back to the page, it's not there anymore. So, yeah, it's only there for the duration of the request, really.
Yeah, it should theoretically just be there for you and you only.
Yes.
Not repeatable to others without your input.
Yes.
So yeah, I was kind of baffled by it. And we dug a little bit deeper, and we're like, well, how have they done this? So we ended up speaking to a client, and this client showed us these screenshots of like these massive cows on the page. But the screenshots they sent through, when we started looking through them, they were for their admin panel, which is a totally separate system to the one we were attacking. So not only did the one we were attacking have cross-site scripting vulnerabilities in it, these vulnerabilities also allowed us to inject stuff into their admin system, which we didn't even know about. It wasn't in scope. They hadn't even told us about it. We didn't know it existed. Their admin page rendered log files from all of the page requests. So my cross-site scripting cow, got rendered in their admin panel. So once they've authenticated to their admin panel, we got the ability to execute JavaScript like in their browser of their admin panel, which is crazy powerful if you sort of join the dots up. But at the time, it was a massive, massive mistake, but a happy ending as well, in a way, because that was a big bug and could have been really bad. And we've seen stuff like that again since, where you've got like mobile phone applications. We see it a lot in, for example. I'm sure you do as well. But you put input into a mobile phone application and you think, well, nothing's going to really come of that. But then also there's a web page that shares the same database somewhere that renders the actual JavaScript. You're like, yay! Cross-site scripting in the most unexpected places. That goes, it's always worth asking about those sorts of admin systems. A lot of people have them, and they always feel like it doesn't need to be part of a test, or that's beyond the testing scope. Because it's, the attacker's only going to see the public-facing URL part of it. Then again, they're never going to get their hands on like the admin system. It's like, well, yeah, that's all well and good, but I mean, in this case, they can. So it's all great until it does happen. So it's always worth testing those highly authenticated places, even if a client thinks there's not very much worth in it. But the often a comeback of, oh, it's just got a login page on it. Like, well, yeah. What's behind the login page? There's a whole application there that probably wants testing as well.
Yeah. And
that can easily be vulnerable to stuff like this. So yeah, my shame about my cow. But we all found it very funny. I'm not sure my boss did. I did. My boss didn't.
I found it hilarious.
He found it very funny.
But there's a good learning point about, well, you shouldn't always make assumptions about where your inputs are going. I've talked about this a number of times, especially related to SQL injection. I ranted about that. Never assume that your input, never assume that one input correlates to one output or, one application flow. Like the data can be used several places. Like it doesn't matter. So I feel like, there's a lot of lessons to be learned about how application flow works, whether databases are shared, how it might affect back-end applications, certainly for bug bounty as well, because back-end applications are often, even if they're not specifically stated to be in scope, if you can prove that you're able to access some kind of back-end application or cause a back-end application to do something weird, they'll usually put it in scope specifically, for the bug you found. So, yeah.
Maybe don't use a cow.
No, don't use a cow. There are now websites. I forget, there's an XSS one. I forget what it's called. There's an XSS one which will allow you to sort of pull in a JavaScript file and it'll take a screenshot for you or something. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. There's so many ways of notifying yourself if something has been executed somewhere. You can't just rely on a client to tell you that there's a massive cow popped up on the screen. Funny though it is.
Indeed. Good stories.
Good stories. Good chat.
Don't do what we did. I'm sure you'll mess up so many times in different ways. Be original with your mistakes is the passing advice from me.
Yeah, my passing advice is just...
Learn from our mistakes, make more of your own.
Make more of your own. And tell us about them.
Yes.
And don't use cows as pictures. That's my thing.
No, that's Andy. Andy's the only person allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I've been Tiberius. He's been Andy Swift. This has been Across the Pondcast. You can find all of our social media links in the episode description or on acrossthepondcast.net. And we will see you next time.
See you soon. Boom, chicka rocka.